Hi, I'm Alicia De Los Reyes, author of the Chick Lit Cookbook.
And I'm Kelly Rosetta from KMR Publishing, publisher of the Chick Lit Cookbook. We're here today to discuss one of the passages of our Chick Lit Cookbook that got some of the biggest fan reaction. It's just a funny line because our author Alicia De Los Reyes is one of the wittiest writers out there, but it actually has a lot of really good social commentary packed into some of the humor there. So, Alicia, could you please read this controversial passage, and
Okay.
we're going to talk about it with our readers.
All right, so I'm reading on my iPad, which is pretty fun.
Oh, nice.
So this is part of the chapter called The Man, and it's when you're creating your character's love interest. So you have your main character who's the main character, the woman,
Right.
and then she falls in love with this leading man or the love interest. And basically, I write at this chapter that you should make the man kind of fit into the main character's flaw, kind of complement her flaw, like be her missing puzzle piece. So you kind of have to create the main character before you can create the guy that she's going to fall in love with. But then once you create this guy, you can kind of flesh out his character a bit more, make him have a bit more depth. You don't want him to just be a flat puzzle piece. You want him to be a real character.
This is an example of the type of writing exercises that the Chick Lit Cookbook helps you complete. That is how you get a novel in 30 minutes a day.
There you go.
Shameless plug number 3.
You can collect them all. So in one of the steps in this exercise, you're expanding the man's need for something, which is what the main character is going to fulfill, into a small-scale personality flaw. So we mentioned in another video the main character has a really big flaw, or, it's kind of the focus of the book, or part of it, that prevents her from getting what she wants. The guy, he has a smaller flaw that he can surmount, kind of in the background. Because the main focus in your novel, so here's the passage, isn't going to be the love interest and his issues, because this is chick lit. Not watch a man figure out his issues lit. You could write a book about that too, and instead of chick lit, it would be called literature. That was my one dig at the patriarchy.
I was going to say, at our patriarchal society. So, Alicia, tell me, I'm going to lean in for this. Tell me what you meant by that statement, which, as I said, is very humorous, and obviously we are not man-haters here at the Chick Lit Cookbook Club. But watch a dude figure out his issues lit. That's just called regular literature. But when you do it about a woman, they give it the cutesy title Chick Lit, which we've come to embrace. We're taking the term back. But
I guess I was just thinking, so I saw Meg Wolitzer speak. She's author of a lot of really good books. One called The Uncoupling, which I read, and her most recent one is called The Interestings, which I haven't read yet.
Ooh.
But she's very, very smart. Her books are really thought-provoking. I would compare her to, I don't know who I would compare her to. She's a great writer, but she writes about family issues, and so she talked about how her books have not gained, she's got a lot of fans, but her books are not like Jonathan Franzen level of popular.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they basically write about the same things. Like Jonathan Franzen's The Corrections is basically this family melodrama, and The Uncoupling is kind of like a town scale family melodrama. It's not as dark and depressing, I guess, but as The Corrections. But they cover a lot of the same themes, like what it means to be married, what a healthy relationship is, how love can die, how kids grow up, and how parents were not really in The Uncoupling, but yeah, so she said in her talk that she's often treated as like she was at a party once, and she said, I'm a writer. She was talking to some guy. She said, I'm a writer, and he said, oh, well, would I have heard of your books? Which is kind of implying that there's this other genre just for women where guys wouldn't hear of those books. So pretty harsh comment to say, and you would never say that. I I don't know if you would say that to a guy who's a writer. You'd be like, oh, I should have read your books. I mean, does that make sense?
I see where you're going with that. Absolutely. So the idea being that, that's interesting though. So do you think that's because the author is male or female?
Yeah.
Because as you said, they've chosen they're treating a similar subject.
Right.
So it isn't necessarily the subject matter, it's who the author is.
Right, exactly. So like if the author is female, then they get different treatment. I saw another really cool Tumblr. I can't remember the name, but I think it was called like the Cover Switch.
Okay.
And basically, the person who ran the Tumblr asked people to come up with. Imagine that the author of different books had their genders flipped.
Okay.
And then it was called the cover flip. That's what it was called. And redesign the cover with that in mind. So like if you think about a book like Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Okay.
It has a really cool cover with like big font, right?
Yeah.
But it's basically about a kid, right?
Yeah.
Right? And around 9/11, and if a woman had written that, maybe it would have had like a little boy on the cover or something like that. It would have been totally different. Or the Twilight series written by a woman. But if if a man had written them, would they have, instead of having like this red, well, actually those are kind of like manly, I guess you could say. But a lot of times, like when women write books with romantic themes, there's always like a couple kissing on the front.
Yeah.
When men write books with romantic themes, there's like a picture of two wedding rings, like that book by Jeffrey Eugenides. What's it called?
I don't know it, but yes.
I can't.
Okay.
But so that is kind of like sexism in literature, I guess. And there's a lot of studies about it, like VIDA, VIDA. They're this organization that's taken surveys of how often women get published versus men. And women get published in literary journals maybe like 10% of all articles, something like that. It's ridiculously low. And any magazine that I think publishes more than half women or 50% women should be applauded. I happen to follow a literary journal that does that, Sundog Literature. They just produced an issue with more than half women. But
I think there's two. I shared the quote with you at the time. Obviously, it came out in the New York Times Magazine, because that's what I read every week. But it was Elizabeth Gilbert was talking about her new book. I don't remember the title, but it's more of it's a historical fiction. It's about a woman who either falls in love with or is the sister of, I can't remember, like a Charles Darwin type person. She's a botanist. She herself is a botanist. And so it kind of, I guess, details a lot more about, it's a lot more about history and science. Point being, in the New York Times Magazine, when she was interviewed about this, Elizabeth Gilbert said that people, I don't know if it was her publisher or just other people around her, said to her, oh, so that's how you're following up to Eat, Pray, Love. Oh, that's good, because now you're gonna get a different class of readers. And they sort of did that, like the scrunchy nose, like, oh, you'll get a different class of readers. And she said, what they're saying is, I'm gonna get non-chick lit readers, which means real readers, which means men. So I think too, if you have a genre, like you were saying, if it's a woman, if it's a female author, you end up with a certain prejudice toward what's written. And then two, if you're dealing with even a wildly popular female author who's writing toward a mostly female audience, there's sort of this marginalization, like, oh, well, that was her chick lit book. That's when she was writing for women. That's just Eat, Pray, Love. Well, just Eat, Pray, Love is like read by billions of people and has a movie with freaking Julia Roberts in it. So why are we putting that to the side?
I guess I don't understand it because women, I've read this, women are 70% of readers. Women are readers.
70%? That's amazing.
So, like, I mean, smart women read chick lit. I don't understand. Why would you not want the people who read chick lit to read your book also?
That's exactly. Silly. And that is why we target the chick lit lovers, because we know that you are the true appreciators of literature.
It's true.
Well, I think that's all.
You don't have to be, but you can, is the point.
Precisely. That good note to end on. That's all the time we have for today. But certainly continue the conversation with us on our Tumblr website. Alicia?
ChickLitCookbook.tumblr.com.
Excellent. See you next time.